piece of nostalgia. They came from all over North and South Carolina in the summers of '51 through '54. They were lifeguards, they were bartenders, waitresses. They sold snow cones, or they just laid on the beach all day. Some were beach bums, some were students, but they were all friends. In fact, they considered themselves family. And back almost 30 years ago, they all did the shag. And they recently all got together in a Myrtle Beach party reunion.
I used to run away from home and come down here. And I used to live in Mullins, which is about 50 miles from here. Then by 1948, I come down, started working here. Was a jitterbug. Never danced real good, but just enough to get by. Been here off and on all my life.
It's been like, what, 23, 24 years since I was last here. But I've only been here 15 minutes and already seen about a dozen of my old friends, and suddenly I'm 23 years younger.
It's better than going back to a class reunion or any sort of reunion. It's a family reunion. And we're finally getting back together.
Everyone's asking why are we doing it, and the only answer I can think of is why not. We were family, the family drifted apart, and we needed to get back for a family reunion, and we've done it, and now we'll do it annually.
This coat is 27 years old. It has one little moth hole on it. And we always had to have our initials. Of course, you know, even though we only had one coat, we had to make sure that it was ours, right?
I got the boogie woogie like a knife in the back. So be my guest, you've got nothing to lose. Won't you let me take you on a sea cruise?
Then our pants, for example, we had the welt seams. They were 22 inches here, 14 inches at the bottom, and a half-inch cuff.
I can't even believe it's sort of like a dream. You know, seeing people you haven't seen in over 30 years, some of them. But it all gets together just quickly. It gels quickly.
My heart is beating rhythm and it's right on time. So be my guest, you've got nothing to lose.
Just a fine bunch of American youth.
When I say the blues, you probably think of the city of New Orleans, because that's where the blues were born. But right here in the Carolinas, we have a style of music all our own. It's called beach music. And there's a dance to go with it called the shag. And recently, people from all over the country gathered here at North Myrtle Beach for a reunion to celebrate the birth of beach music.
WNMB, Stereo 105 and Bill Campbell on this SOS weekend on the Grand Strand. And right now, for all you people down for the big SOS weekend, here are the Embers, and I love beach music.
I love beach music. Always have and I always will. There ain't no other kind of music in the world that gives me quite the thrill when I hear 60-minute man.
They call it the Grand Strand, a dozen or so miles of flat sandy beach on the Atlantic shore, just below the border of North Carolina. It's a family beach now, the kind of place you take the wife and kids for a few days of quiet relaxation. But it wasn't always like that. Back in the 1940s and 50s, the Grand Strand was a magnet for thousands of teenagers. They came here to get away from mom and dad and dance to the music played on the jukeboxes here. Their parents called it black music. The press called it rock and roll. They called it beach music.
I was born with it in my bones. I learned to shag on the beach with the salt in the air and the sand at my feet. Yeah.
Well, this beach is where I grew up. I had sand in my shoes. All of this group that's here, this is where we grew up as teenagers. We were a very close-knit group. We were a family. It's a family reunion is what it is. We're the kids, and the kids are back.
And a few weeks ago, the kids came back by the thousands for what was called the SOS migration. SOS was the brainchild of Gene Lauder, a Richmond, Virginia advertising executive.
The SOS migration is a reunion, a gathering of all the kids, former kids rather, that worked and hung out on this beach from the late 30s through the 50s. SOS is the Society of Stranders. It's a matter of identification, a means of identification. It was a catchy phrase, but it meant the Grand Strand. Basically, it's just been a long weekend beach party. Everybody find their old buddies, get together and party, dance to the music of those particular times, which, by the way, is being danced today.
There's a place across the street.
They danced on the beach. They danced on the boogie boat, a giant catamaran that Gene Lauder rented for the occasion. And they danced on into the night at a local club.
Heavenly shades of night are falling. It's twilight time. Out of the mist your voice is calling. 'Tis twilight time.
There's a big resurgence in beach music and the dance called the shag, which has been danced at this beach since the late 30s. It's a dance that's never died, and I think it's always going to stay. It's never had any exposure outside of the two Carolinas. It's peculiar to this area. You see a dancer in Chicago or California, and if they're dancing the shag, you know they came from either Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, Atlantic Beach.
Rock 'em, roll 'em all night long. I'm a 60-minute man. If you don't believe I'm all I say, well, come up and take my hand. Oh, when I let you go, you'll cry, oh yes, he's a 60-minute man.
In all, the migration drew about 5,000 people from 15 states. Some came from as far as California. Stanley and Betty Catron drove all the way from Grandview on the Hudson in New York State.
It's an unbelievable
I finally
experience.
met people that I can attach a body to. I only heard about their names, and then finally Betty says, here's Hoghead, and here's Hosenose, and here's Bad Eye.
George, we just couldn't leave anything with just plain names.
Yeah.
Everybody had to have a name.
Marvelous people. There's a loving group. There's people, these people are special. I've traveled, I've been in the entertainment business. I've never seen people that have a genuine love for each other.
Betty had worked on the beach back in the 50s, and although she met and married Stanley in New York City, she says she's never forgotten the friends and the fun time she had on the beach in Ocean Drive.
It's like we never stopped. We pick up the same conversation we had 30 years ago. It's unbelievable. You have to experience it to understand it.
Do you recognize the people when you first see them?
Yes, yes. It's the eyes. The hair is gray. Some have, you know, gotten a little fatter. But you just look straight at the eyes and they say, is that you? Yes! And then to hug it and to kiss it, it's fantastic.
It's a very tactile group, too. I mean, everybody goes over and they touch and they hold and they hug. It's beautiful. It really is. It's exciting.
After only 2 days on the beach, it was time to pack up and drive back to New York. But Stanley and Betty agreed that it was one weekend they'd never forget.
We're all so exhausted, we'll be driving back to New York in total silence, but there'll be an occasional giggle. And it'll be, what are you thinking about now? And we've been through this, that this is just wonderful, seeing everybody again.
And if you don't know what the SOS is all about, it's a reunion of beach bums, lifeguards, beach music freaks, and lovers at the Grand Strand.
I love beach music. I'm talking about music by the towns, the Clovers, the Catalinas, the Embers. I love beach music. You know that.
Well, the SOS migration is over, and all the folks have headed on home.